everyone, it is Yamina. I hope you all are doing well. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a short story time about something I've been wanting to share for a while, but I decided to finally share it because it's kind of in line with a video that I saw by Ishtar 21st Century YouTube channel, where she was discussing certain people who have commentary on mixed people's hair. And she brought out a point. I didn't actually comment on that point in the comment section of that video, but I was like, I've been thinking that a lot of my life, but I haven't been able to express that really. So the point that I want to express is that, and there's possible multiple reasons for this. So the point that I want to express is that people of different skin tones from the mixed and black community who are mixed with black, people with different skin tones may experience different things when it comes to racism and racist people and racist commentary. And due to people with lighter skin tones having lighter skin tones, people sometimes really do feel comfortable saying off-color things to people. And I have noticed that, but I took it that, like, literally the way I took it is I was like, they'll say that to me, but they won't say that to someone with a deeper skin tone because they know it would sound racist. And a lot of people that I'm encountering are not, like, actively seeking to be racist. They are just saying things that are really unthoughtful. I think that's the right word. Very unthoughtful, kind of inconsiderate things that they're saying. Sometimes they're even saying things that are colorist in nature because they're specifically talking about a person's skin color and they're not themselves of African descent, but they're saying something that's really like color based and they think it's a joke and it's not. So I feel I've experienced people saying things to me because of my skin tone that they would never say to someone with a deeper skin tone. And I've expressed that in a previous video, I'm pretty sure, but not in this context before. But I've always felt that I just realized that people really will say certain things to people of lighter skin tones because they think it's safe to do that, and is not. Because I have actually said stuff to people because I'm like, why are you saying that? You wouldn't say that to somebody else who was darker, blah 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 blah. So that's my take, and that's what Ishtar 21st Century expressed in her video. They recognize the proximity that some mixed people and MGM people may have to whiteness, so they feel a little more comfortable saying certain things that they would never say to someone with a deeper skin tone. And that's crazy to me, but that's something that I've definitely noticed. I also feel like if someone is racist, I don't know if this is a fact, I'm going to just say from my experience, if someone is racist and they really don't hide their racism, they're usually going to avoid people who are noticeably of whatever race that they're racist towards. They're going to avoid those people. If they are, I don't know what the proper terminology is, but if they are not 100% racist, but they have inclinations to express racist thoughts, and they avoid certain people due to their race or ethnicity, they may still tolerate certain people from those particular races based on maybe their skin tone, maybe their hair color, maybe the way they present themselves, their personal personalities that may be different from the general group that they're from. So I have, as I mentioned before, when I used to talk about colorism and just like aspects of what makes colorism exist within the black and mixed communities, and me being of the belief that colorism goes both ways, I think the racism that I experienced, maybe they did not see me as just being black. Maybe they saw me as a mixed person, and that especially made them dislike me because I was mixing with something that they should not be mixed with. So I don't know. I grew up most of my life identifying and feeling like I was always viewed as a light-skinned African American girl. And the times that I was mistaken for being Latina, that was when I was hanging out with certain friends of mine. Sometimes when I was hanging out with certain friends of mine, some people, and then other times people would think that I was mixed when they themselves were mixed. That would happen on occasion as well. But I'm assuming most of the time that people encountered me, whether they were of African descent themselves, or whether they were white American, or whatever race that I encountered, whether they were Asian American as well, Native American. I always assumed people just saw me as being a light-skinned black woman. And so there were times when I was assuming that, and there were times that it turns out that wasn't the case necessarily. And I definitely never felt like I represented the black community in the USA ever. Like, I always represent myself, and I don't desire to represent anyone. No one else represents me, whether they be popular in the media or not. Like, nobody else represents me, and anyone else's actions don't reflect on me, and they make me feel bad for the person if the actions aren't good and I'm paying attention to the actions. But other than that, like, I don't really feel affected by what other people are doing, even if they look similar to me, even if they have similar backgrounds to me. It's not who I am, it's who they are and what they're dealing with. So that is just my big disclaimer. So this story brought up this situation about like how some people may consider people who appear to be mixed or who are mixed to be in some kind of way in close proximity to them or in proximity to them. So when I was in college, the first South African person that I ever met was one of my literature professors, one of my creative writing professors. He was part of our creative writing program, which included like literature classes, writing classes, all kinds of classes related to creative writing and reading different books and having discussions about them, and especially like books with big topics in them. So one time we were reading the book called The Human Stain in class, and this professor, I feel like I talk and then I forget that I didn't finish my complete thought about something. So let me start again with the professor. So he was the first South African person I ever met. He was white. He was of European descent. And he was my favorite professor because of his accent and because he was foreign to me. Like, most of my professors were from the USA, and I don't remember which parts of the USA they were from, but they were from all over. I don't think there was anyone who was from New York like I was, but most of my professors were from all over, and some of them were local to my college town, like my college state, my whatever. Some of them were local, some of them were from the other parts, but he was like one of the few foreign professors that we had, and I was like, and wait, is that the right word to say? He was one of the few immigrant professors that we had. I'll say that because being an immigrant is not an issue. So he was one of the few immigrant professors that we had, and he had an accent. He was so much fun to listen to, talk to, and the topics we were discussing were always interesting. We discussed the book The Human Stain in class, which was about an African American man who was of a very light complexion, who passed himself off as being Jewish, and that was an interesting concept because there's movies about, like, watch Gentleman's Agreement, which is from the 1940s, 1950s, if you want to get another idea of what I'm talking about. But this was like the opposite. Being Jewish was acceptable in this particular story instead of being a light-skinned African American man so that he can get benefits in his profession. He was a professor in this book, and we were discussing this book. We were discussing politics in class, and I stopped being political myself before I went to college. Before I went to college, I was pretty active in like political stuff, going to the legislature and stuff for different things related to communities I was part of. But by the time I went to college, I was only very minimally aware of like politics that were going on, things that were going on in the country, very minimally aware of things. And I thought that this book was interesting, but I didn't like I did not like the book had a lot more deeper issues than just this man identifying as a different race. It was like way deeper than what I brought up, but I did not I don't remember what I was gonna say. Okay, my bad. So I wasn't political at this time. That's what I'm trying to say. I was not political, and my professor, he was part of the apartheid that was going on in South Africa. I don't know which side he was on, but he was part of the children's army. He was part of something as a youth. And I don't know if he was on the good side or the bad side of apartheid. Like, I really don't know. I never felt comfortable bringing it up, even though he did say he was part of that. And I think being part of the youth army is, like, the bad side of apartheid. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong. If anyone knows, I should have looked this up. I didn't know I forgot that I was going to have to bring out that aspect of his background. So that's my fault because I forgot I was going to bring that up in this story. So he was part of that, right? And I didn't know anything about what he was saying. I was like, oh my goodness, was he on the bad side? And he's telling us the story like it's okay? Like, what is going on? So I don't know which part. I should look that up, and I'll correct it in my comments, not my comment section. I'll correct it in my description box when I upload this video. So that's the minimal things that I knew about him. The other thing that I knew about him is that he dated men, and that was the only thing that I knew that we had in common. Like, the other disclaimer I'm going to say is that before I went to college, I dated women, and I identified with that only because I did not want girls my age to be scared away from me if I said that I dated both. And I heavily identified with only dating women before I went to college, and then when I went to college I still heavily identified with that label, but I was interested in guys at the same time. So I should have went back to identifying as dating both, because because I should have. It's just that I was very heavily set on identifying as only dating women, and so I did that, and most people knew that at the time. And most people knew that. Most of my professors didn't know that, I think, though. Like, that wasn't something I was going to bring up to a professor, but most of my peers knew that, and most of them were still trying to come around to the fact that I was interested in guys, but the guys that I was interested in usually were like my friends, not just strange men that I met. So yeah, and I'll still do a video about dating and not dating and all that stuff later on. But I should have been so that was the only thing that we had in common. We both were interested in the same gender to date, even though I was also interested in guys as well. And he did not know that about me. I found out later on. So we were having this discussion in class one time about the human stain, and the professor was saying something to me about like a political figure who I had never heard about from the USA. I had never heard about her. I don't even want to say her name because it doesn't matter. But he said something to me about her, and I was like, who? And he was asking me if I was like her. And I was like, I don't even know who that is. And then he said, he says, you're kind of like me, right? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I did not consider myself to have anything in common with my professor. He was like 30 plus years older than me. He was a man. He was a white man. and he was from South Africa. So I did not feel like I had anything in common with him, except that we both were interested in the same gender when it came to dating romantically, and that we were both interested in literature and writing. Those were the things that we had in common. That was it. And he didn't even know about like who I dated, right? So the whole point of this video is that he thought for some reason that we might have been in the same socioeconomic class as well, I think. And I was just like, I'm from the working class. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what's going on here. I am in college because I have scholarships and federal aid, I think the word is. So I'm not in college because anyone paid for it besides like assistance. So I was just like, I don't understand what's going on with this conversation. So we stopped having that conversation because it was like right in the middle of the class when we were talking about this book, and he tried to bring out that we were similar when we weren't similar. And then another time, and like I said, this was my favorite professor in the whole school. Like, I didn't have any other favorite professors besides him, even though I liked most of my professors. He was my favorite by far, and maybe my Spanish teacher as well. But we had another class. We were talking about another piece of art, written art, and I was like having this flirtation with one of my male acquaintances. He was kind of my friend, but he was more like a new friend, an acquaintance, I would say, like I said. And I thought he was super cute, and we would like talk. And for some reason, me and this friend decided to sit opposite each other in the classroom, and we kept making eye contact, and we were kind of like flirting with each other and trying to talk to each other about like something that I was going to help him with or something he was going to help me with. And we were doing it across the class, and the professor kept catching us. And he only caught me, actually. He only caught me trying to speak to this guy. He didn't catch the guy trying to speak to me. And so he got annoyed, and he basically said, I'm going to like speak to me after class to me, right? And I was like, okay. So me and my acquaintance, we actually had a quick verbal exchange after class, and we were going to meet later or something. And then I went to the professor's office after class, and this guy was so formal, so serious, so rude, and so annoyed with me for no good reason, because he didn't see that there was a flirtation going on. He didn't see that I wasn't being rude to him. I was just distracted in class. He just thought I was being kind of disrespectful, and he didn't see anymore that we had anything in common. He just thought I was being very disrespectful and slightly disruptive in his class. And instead of sitting there and saying, you're my favorite professor, I don't know why you're having this attitude with me, I told him basically about the flirtation that was going on without saying like, oh, and I'm interested in girls too. I was like, yeah, me and my friend were having this thing, and we shouldn't have been having this thing across the room from each other, but that's what was going on, and I wasn't trying to be rude. I was just very distracted. And because of the attitude that he brought to that situation and the complete lack of understanding or the lack of any kind of leeway, he instantly became not my favorite professor anymore, because I was like, wow, he's just so bent out of shape for no good reason. And I felt like he was, I don't know, I felt like it was kind of like a race thing, maybe a misogyny thing, and I could be completely wrong, but his attitude on this situation that really wasn't even a situation, because he was the only professor, well, it was the only time I've ever been caught flirting in class anyway, but that was the first time and the last time a professor ever called me out to go to their office after class because of some weirdness in the class. Like, that was the only time. And he was the only person whose background would have made him somebody who was directly like opposite of me, I guess the word would be. considering like the apartheid in his country and the different classes of people in the country, colored, black, white. I don't know if there's any other categories of people, but yeah. So I don't know how he saw me, because he did not know any of my personal stuff. He just saw that he saw how I looked, and he probably knew that I was from New York City, but that was the only thing he knew about me. And he knew that I was from a working class family. That was the only thing he knew about me. And most of that stuff he found out just by looking at me, and also by me saying that in class in front of people, because he tried to assume that we were from the same socioeconomic class. And I was just like, this doesn't make any kind of sense. So anyway, so that is my story about like people thinking some people have proximity to them, when just because somebody may be slightly closer to you still doesn't make you the same, and still doesn't put you in the same family of people, especially being from different countries. Like, being from different countries the way we are, like, my experience and his experiences are completely different, and he's dealt with things that I never had to deal with, and vice versa. So I don't understand why he singled me out, but I believe it must have been related to him thinking that we had some kind of similarity that I didn't see, that I didn't understand, that he may have understood from being from his country. He saw me a different way than I am perceived in my own country, if that makes any sense. So, yeah, so that video that Ishtar brought out just like reminded me that, yes, there are some people of European descent who may see people who are mixed and think that we are similar in some kind of way, and feel like they can have conversations that they would not have with anyone else, because that person is more like, the non-mixed person would be perceived very differently to them than a mixed person would be. So that's just what I'm taking from it, because I thought that interaction was highly strange. And I apologize, there's my light again. I thought that interaction was highly strange, and I was very thrown off base. And like I said, that professor remained never being my favorite teacher ever again. I did the best that I could in his class, and I enjoyed his class, but he was never my favorite professor. I never told him that he had ever been my favorite professor, and that was that. And it was a very strange interaction. So I'm going to listen back to this video and see if it's postable. But I hope you enjoyed the story. Please let me know if you have any questions. I hope this video made sense, because I just took it from the vein that I took it from, but then that brought up, like, Ishtar's commentary brought up, oh, maybe that also factored into what was going on, because even though I did realize that some racist people can see different people from the same group differently, I thought at the same time that racism would be displayed in the same way, but it's not. And so that's possibly, what I was dealing with without it being racist leaning. It might have just been, like I said, it might have just been misogyny, or, yeah. Anyway, so that's the end of my video. Please let me know if you have any questions, and I will talk to y'all later. Thanks for watching, and thanks for listening. Bye.